advocate women be a virgin on her, wedding day, etc. And the reality is that's just not going to happen. Like, you're going to have to go to, a pretty strict Sharia law country to be able to find that.
And she still has to be in the fourth grade.
Yeah. Oh, my God. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, and if you interpret it literally, it could be problematic. So my thing is, right, like, and this applies to Judaism as well, right? Like, so, like, let's go with Daily Wire, right? Because they're also super hard on, pushing the trad con marriage, etc., which, again, everyone at this table believes in the nuclear family. But we don't agree with pursuing the nuclear family in a volatile environment that's set up for you to fail unless you go in with your eyes wide open. I'm not telling you to not pursue the nuclear family. I'm telling you to know that it could be nuclear if it fails. So my thing is also this. Religion is not going to give you the safety that it once did before. I always say that religion is kind of like training wheels, right? Those training wheels are gone. You better be able to ride that fucking bike from the beginning, because the training wheels are no longer there to keep women in line, shame, guilt. All this stuff isn't there anymore. Women are incentivized to be whores thanks to the music, thanks to society. OnlyFans now gives them a financial reason to be whores. We got girls now where we know they're going on podcasts saying, yeah, I sucked this guy's dick, and then I got the jizz in my mouth, then I went back to my other guy, blah, blah. Girls are saying this now to get clicks. Right. So they're advertising themselves as whores. So there's never been a time where women are more comfortable to be promiscuous. So what does that mean? It means that religion is no longer a tool set to defend you from the fuckery. And, Ben Shapiro always says, well, I'm a married man and blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what, bro? Now everybody's a Harvard graduate that came from a, Orthodox Jewish family that had the Orthodox Jewish woman set up for him with a setup. Like, it's not going to happen for a lot of guys.
You probably won't leave him because he's rich.
Yeah. If you know anything about his story, if you know how he met his wife, it's like
both virgins and stuff.
He was just, I'm courting you now. And it's like who the fuck?
Yeah, like, no girl's going to, could you imagine going up to a girl, say, I'm going to court you? Like, excuse, most of these bitches don't even know what court means. You mean my ticket? Like, what bitch? Like, no. Yes. Like, we're going to go out on a date. Like, they don't even know. So it's like the thing is that the new normal has changed. So, like, and I'm critical of all the religions for this. None of the religions of the book, unfortunately, prepare you for the modern woman. I hate to say it, man.
Well, so I think you brought up earlier wisdom, right? So on some level, religion is important because you need structure to handle your daily affairs. Sure. However, without wisdom, there's no application to those, standards. So what's happening here is that people pick and choose what is good for them based off of religion. For example, Christians. Oh, you know what? We're all loving. Come and gaze. You can be gay here. Yeah. Show your love, and we'll support you. But what does the Bible say? It says, listen. That's not what God wants. Says, but to be all inclusive, they say, we'll bend the rules for you guys. But again, this is where you have to apply wisdom and religion together for it to make sense, which involves dating, getting experience.
And it hurt me to say that. Like, guys, I don't want to have to, say something about a religion I grew up following and my family follows strictly. But I got to be honest. Like, Islam does not set you up to deal with Western modern women.
We can all agree. I'm watching Marquette over here. I'm like, I know.
Say something that I noticed.
He's going to say.
Please. Because I'm going to bounce off of yours right now because I know what you're going to say.
There's no such thing as a religious woman. When you're dealing with religion, you're dealing with values and principles that you have to stick to.
Yes.
You've heard the phrase, a man of his word. You've never heard a woman of her word. Oh, my God. Right? Okay. And I know you know the word. While we're speaking of the Bible, they said in the beginning there was the word.
Yeah.
So there are no women of the word. There are no women who believe in religion. The real failing is of the men who actually don't take on the religion seriously and enforce it. The other thing we have to consider is this. It's actually, keeping with that, it was not the religion and the ideas that kept the woman in line. It was the community.
Yeah.
The community which provides for stigmatization, shame.
Consequences.
Exactly. Her feeling bad about her behaviors. Yeah. So unless we have that religious community with men enforcing the ideas and providing consequences.
And other women, too. Instead of enabling in the comments like, you go, girl. No, they should be saying, you fucking slut.
Right. And they're saying that because the man programmed them. Yes. The woman finds her religion through the man.
Agreed. Yeah.
You could almost say that a real man is the God to the woman.
Well, look at it linearly. So God, the man and woman. That's how it works.
That's right.
Children and puppy dogs.
Well, when you look at from a macro standpoint, like you said before, the concept of consequences. Those consequences aren't there. And anytime you have like a liberal democratic society and technology advances, you're going to get further and further away from a survival scenario. Right. And as you get further and further away from a survival scenario, then all of a sudden you have the luxury of not having the same beliefs. I'm not saying like, let's bring back the Scarlet Letter or whatever, but
I'm saying bring it back.
What I am saying though is the result of there being no consequence of Brittany Renner saying I fucked 3 guys today and I have a yeast infection, and she goes viral on TikTok for saying that. For her doing that, we had a girl on here one time. Do you remember? She's like, yeah, I'm seeing this guy's pretty serious. And then later on, by the end of the show, admit she just gave a guy a blowjob right before the show. I was like, it's the guy you're dating. She's like, no, it's a different guy. And I'm like, she's probably 60,000 people are watching us.
And that makes sense in her head, though.
For sure.
That's the part that kills me, is that in her head,
for sure,
that's still okay.
Yeah.
There's a redhead that just kind of like, I don't want to go into too many details, but long story short, it's 3 a.m. I'm in my storefront, right? Woman knocks on the door. I open the door. She's claiming she wants to go upstairs, right? So I was like, okay, I'll let you in the building. So I leave out of my storefront. I go let her upstairs, and then she still needs me to scan her into the elevator. So we get in the elevator. She has a drink. She's supposed to go meet her friend. She's texting, and then she says, oh, they're saying like the party's over, so I guess I'm too late. Okay, cool. So then we go back out. You guys know it's been a bit cold, right? So she's supposedly waiting for someone to come pick her up, her boyfriend. So then she says, hey, it's a bit cold. Do you mind if I sit inside with you while I wait for him? I'm not going to tell you guys how that story ended, but what I can tell you is that during the proceedings that occurred, I could see her texting him, oh, baby, I love you, and like, I'm sorry we had this fight, and I shouldn't have went out without you. And you know what? I truly believe she meant every word of it.
She did.
Despite everything she did that night, she meant every word.
And all the times you guys have had over 2,000 women on your show. Yeah. Have you heard I have never heard a single woman say I cheated on this guy and I regret it. Not one time. Maybe once, and I can't remember. But I never hear a woman say I broke up and I regret it. Because the thing is, regretting it would have to come with some consequences. I'm a man of my word. If I don't keep my word, if I keep showing up late, if I do business deals with you guys and I screw you over, not only will you not work with me, other people will not work with me as well. My value as a human, my ability to be useful to other humans comes through my word. If I have big fake boobies, then I don't have to do that. And when I don't show up on time, like, it's just incredible to me, like the leeway. And by the way, I'm not blaming women for this. Can you imagine how any of us would act if we had women offering us sex hundreds of times a day? Not only women offering us sex,
right there.
They're offering us money just to show our bodies. Yeah, could you imagine like how you'd be intolerable? I'm not even blaming women for this.
Can't blame women for
be intolerable. You wouldn't even know. There's no way evolutionarily for your brain to like comprehend that. So when women were getting all this attention, they still have the same evolutionary psychology hardwire that they had 200,000 years ago. It's just not, that firmware is not programmed for this stimulus, for this input. And so when they do it, they just become intolerable, which is the same thing.
Look at Britney Spears right now.
Sure.
I made a post about this. She's going crazy. For anyone that for the Gen Zers, we're all old enough to know. She was going. She was obviously pop star. She's gonna go down. Down the Hall of Fame, with the MJs and the Chers and everything else like that as a pop singer, right? It's undebatable that she's probably one of the top pop stars in the 90s, right? Whatever. She got famous young though, right? Mm-hmm. I would argue that the craziness that Britney Spears is experiencing right now came from her getting too much attention and too much fame at a young age, and she didn't know how to handle it.
Oh yeah, too much, too young, too fast.
In the next 20 years. You're going to see the same thing with a bunch of these regular-ass girls thanks to fucking Instagram. You got regular girls with 100,000 followers, no skill set, used to getting a bunch of attention and likes from men.
Million dudes simping over.
Could you imagine what it's going to be like when she's 40 and she no longer gets that same level of attention? It's going to be Britney Spears, but on a crazy and exponentially more level.
And then we want her to commit to one man that is mediocre at best, and then say, oh, you know what? Lower your standards. She won't.
Yeah, because these girls. Well, so have these girls. Sometimes they can sleep with a guy above their skills. I think they can date him. So get these girls that can sleep with a guy.
You fuck a 10, so you think you can get a 9 to commit.
No, exactly. But generally, we can fuck a girl. That girl will date us in most cases. But these women sometimes will sleep below our levels, or if we're sleeping around, and these girls think they can date men that are way out of their league, and they're chasing these guys that they can't date.
I'm flooded.
Simply put,
I love it, and I'm flooded right now.
Yeah, like this is what I predict. Like when I see Britney Spears acting crazy, I'm like, holy shit. This is going to happen in 20 years to the 19-year-old that's all over OnlyFans, to the 21-year-old that's getting 100,000 likes on a photo. And what's even worse, these girls have no skills. At least Britney could fucking make some music. She got some hits. She has some level of talent. These bitches have nothing. So when they lose their looks, how are they going to maintain their relevancy? How are they going to maintain their sanity?
How do you cult?
We're a bunch of crazy bitches.
Hold on. Drugs,
Xanax,
antidepressants, all that's going to happen.
SSRIs are like at record levels for women. Let me clear out some of these super chats right quick. No Fugazi podcast says shout out to all 7 of these wise gentlemen. Peace of the Saints, and high level IQ conversation. Wish I was there, but I'll be there in 2 weeks. Much respect. Yes. And then I've got Weaponry Fitness says, thank you for the $50 super chat. He says, it's always a pleasure listening to all the excellent men on the panel. Stay gold. And then Nuke says, the utopia isn't your utopia. They lost the fight. Why do you think they will win the rematch? Tradconism was destroyed by the non-reversible process. They're not offering to save society for you. They're demanding you save it for their kids.
So let me add on. This is a very important fundamental thing that Mike hit on, and you did as well, and that is because of technology, because of economic production. Back in the day, women did need men to survive, and that's what brought us together on a genetic bioevolutionary thing. Then you had the Industrial Revolution, Agricultural Revolution, even technology. You guys were on that. You guys were way ahead of that.
Ahead of our time, bro.
Yeah, way ahead of your time. Yep. Yeah. And anyway, so because, and I've said it before, women really don't need men anymore, not to survive. You throw in the welfare state and everything like that. And
not enough guys know that. That women don't fucking need you anymore.
Right.
I think guys
they literally say that on your show constantly. Hell, I had to tell freaking Dr. Phil that exact same day.
They really don't. Sorry.
But anyway, they do not need men. And what younger men have to realize, I don't care how long marriage has been a tradition, I don't care what your religion is saying, women are absolutely different now. And that was one of the main things for me to measure in the Book of Numbers was what percentage of women are marriage material. It's 2.7%. You can question my methodologies. That's a separate.
I'll sign off on that.
Sounds like a good estimate. Though.
I'll sign off on that.
Can you tell them real quick, like how you can?
Well, there are 3 ways. Okay, but
real quick, it's actually amazing how you did it.
There are 3 ways, but the one I think you're referring to is the deal breaker method, where I took
multiple tattoos, mental illness,
bad finances, another man, kids, obese, and I forget the other 3 or 4.
All very fair deal breakers, by the way.
Those are low standards.
I have some really fun friends who have multiple tattoos, and they all have mental illness.
Right.
So real quick, can you watch that? For the tradcons that are watching this right now, that criticize us and hate us or whatever, let's look at the numbers.
Me and Jake over here I don't know.
He said 5 or more. Did you say? You said 4 or more tattoos.
But anyway,
for women, face tattoos, but date them.
But and that's a good point to make. Is for anyone who is religious or you're very traditional, I'm like, okay, for a second, set aside your traditionalism or your religion and view it more as an actuary or a statistician would. And I had an actuary audit my figures. Look at it like an insurance risk pool. Please go get that book, read the number. You can just look at the numbers. You don't have to read anything. But my point is what I'm trying to convey to men. Maybe Rollo was because he's old. But do you guys remember when high school students could bring guns to school because there's either a marksmanship club or they were going to go hunting?
I missed out on that.
In the country in Texas, you could shoot downstairs. Yeah.
Okay, but anyway, so that. Young people are not responsible enough for that.
Yeah.
They are simply not. Wow. And women are no longer responsible enough for marriage. It just generally speaking, because the environment has changed.
So I have a theory.
So women need marriage classes and men need like gun classes.
That'd be a good idea.
So we interviewed, let's say, I want to say altogether, maybe like over 5,000 girls.
Almost 3,000.
All of us.
Everybody here. Oh, yeah.
Everybody, right?
Yeah.
So
easily,
here's my theory, especially with today's, I want to say women's behavior today. So ultimately, women do what they do regardless. It's a new modern day society. They do what they think is right in their head. But my thing is, for a man, I've found that a woman will only do what you tell her to do if she respects you. Yes. So for example, the bottom 100%. Line here is like, if you want to test a woman for a good wife or good tenant to be with you, for example, long term, I would say she's going to do behaviors by herself to get to you. But unless she listens to what you say, it doesn't matter. So that to me is a golden rule there as well. I don't know if you guys agree.
Yeah.
No, like 100%.
I gotta add one in. I gotta add one in.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of women, especially gentlemen such as you all, who are in position. Oh, they're gonna perform.
Yes,
of course, yeah.
It's like that job interview. You're like, do you know how to program in Python? They're like, absolutely. They're gonna do what they can to get in position. But I learned the greatest test. In addition to that, that's a necessary one.
Yeah.
Observe how they react when they're disappointed.
When you tell them no.
Disappoint them.
When you say no.
Yeah, and then see how forgiving they are. And that lets you know the stickiness of the woman. Is she a flighty woman?
Yeah. You can also add to that.
I'd say the
Watch how she behaves around people that can do absolutely nothing for her.
Yeah.
See how
Tell me more about that one, Rolo.
Yeah.
Okay.
Who can do
Expand, sir.
absolutely nothing for her. I mean, it's one thing. Like I hear the reason I came to that conclusion was is that there's a lot of women who will say, "Well, I always make sure and see if the guy will tip, or he'll be like rude to the waiter, or he'll be rude to the store clerk or some shit like that, and trying to impress me by being an asshole with them rather than understanding, like being personable to all the rest." I thought, how does that apply to women?
Okay.
And we have this one example where we talk about did you go to CVS before you came into the show today? Yeah. Did you mention? do you remember the short Filipino guy that was stocking the shelves before?
That?
And no, you didn't, because he's invisible to you. That's what I'm saying. Like, how do women relate with people who can do absolutely nothing for them?
You want to hear something interesting? I literally came to this yesterday, this realization, and it just hit me. Like, I've noticed this trend, but now I'm like solid in it. We do this thing. We tell the girl, "Do you think it's easy to attract a woman as a man?" And they say yes. And that's okay. I want you to be the guy, and I want you to pick up Fresh or me or whatever.
Freshina.
Right? Yeah, whatever. And I'll replace the girl. And I'll give them honest, genuine, normal female objections. Can I get your number? I have a boyfriend. Oh, not playing hard to get, maybe not being as talkative, where you have to generate the conversation, etc. It's amazing how the women almost always default. Well, and they'll be like, "Oh, well, she ain't interested." Immediately start offering money. Immediately start being a trick. Immediately start being a simp, etc. And then I'm like, "Well, what are you doing? You're a regular guy." "What do you mean I'm a regular guy?" "What? No, aren't I 6'5" and a millionaire?" No, you're a fucking regular guy. Pull her up at the supermarket, and they have no concept, because to them, regular guys don't exist.
Invisible.
They don't exist. And I think, because there's a couple of dark truths that men just need to fucking accept, right? And even the tradcons need to accept this shit. Most women don't need you anymore. They're more educated now than ever before, and they've ever been, and they make more money than they ever made. Then on top of that, religion, right? Most girls aren't religious anymore. A lot of you chicks are fucking hoes. And then on top of that, they don't want normal guys, because if they don't need you to provide for them, well, what's left?
The guy they want.
Bam.
Right.
Not the guy they need.
They'd rather be a side chick for the guy they like than date some guy they don't.
You went even through the numbers when
Jason
we went
Momoa, that's
editing your book.
Yes.
Because
one literally said that to me.
Yeah.
What's that?
Jason Momoa. I don't even know who these people are. And she was like, "Yeah."
They want Jack Reacher. That's what they want.
So there's one thing. There's one thing I found was fascinating. So Marilyn Monroe had a mental disorder. It was
Clearly
diagnosed, but Marilyn Monroe's mother had the same mental disorder, and her grandmother had the same mental disorder. And the reason why, you ask yourself, like, what's the deal there? Well, they were attractive enough to where these men looked past that. So there's no selection pressure for a woman. So consider a woman being autistic and a man being autistic. A woman being autistic, if she's still really attractive, will have children, and she will have men pursue her. So there's no selection pressure against her passing on her genetics. A man with the same issue, autism, his ability to procure resources and to be charismatic around a woman is greatly lessened, and therefore his ability to spread his genetics is much less. So what we're seeing, we used to have selection pressure for bigger, stronger men. They would have more children because they would be able to be more productive, and they would have bigger, stronger children. And since 98% of the U.S. population was agricultural back in the 18th century, there was big, strong men who had more kids. So testosterone levels were higher. We've done measurements where testosterone levels have dropped since the 1950s. So now what we see is as these men who are more technologically savvy and do jobs that don't require a lot of testosterone, the selection pressure is not there's no selection pressure against them. So now we have more babies that have lower testosterone. That's one of the reasons why men in general have lower testosterone. But we still have to keep our word. We still have to be productive. We still have to be useful. We still have to be honest. There's still things we have to do as men in order for us to be productive so that we can procreate. For the most part, obviously there's some deadbeat dudes out there. For women, on the other hand, in their situation, they don't. what happens is whatever they come with, whether it be schizophrenia or borderline personality disorder or whatever. My point is, in every population, those things are generally not desired and they're selected against. But if you're hot enough, they aren't. That's my point. They aren't. And so those things will continually get pushed on. This is, again, the whole thing I'm just saying can put down in one sentence: don't stick your dick in crazy, because that's what sticking your dick in crazy.
That, though.
Yeah, but when you stick your dick in crazy, you are continuing.
Not raw.
You're telling me bitches can't be penalized for being retarded?
Yeah, that's the thing.
This is fucked up.
Hey,
let me get an example. Amber Heard.
Let me throw a couple things in here real quick, because I have people in the chat wondering where Andrew Wilson is today. Andrew was going to be on the panel, but he had to cancel at the last minute because he was being baptized this week.
Oh,
so
good job.
that's where he is right now.
Andrew's legit, though.
Yeah, Andrew's legit.
Hey, was he smoking while they dunked him?
People say, "Oh, this conversation would be so great if Andrew was there." I go, "I agree. I 100% agree."
Yeah, let me say this real quick. I've had two people ask me to have a debate with Andrew Wilson about evolutionary psychology. And what me and Andrew would really debate is evolution, not evolutionary psychology. Because Andrew and I actually probably would come to the same conclusions on a lot of things. And I like him. But like multiple people have asked me to do this. But the thing is, what you said at the very beginning, what I don't want to do is to get into a yelling match with someone who believes in Jesus and trying to say, you know, what you're saying is wrong. And so that's my only fear here in these situations, is because we're kind of like a lot of us, when we talk about tradcons and red pill people, we're kind of on the same side, right? We're not voting for we're not voting for Biden, are we? So like we're kind of on the same side. So like that's the problem.
There's a reason why we talk past each other though too, because we're not having the same conversations. And I think we talked about this on our podcast. Is, I refer to them as believers, so it could be any religion, right? Just easier just to say believers, right? So believers tend to be more invested in moral absolutism, whereas like the red pill, at least from my experience anyways, is more about factual absolutism. So what happens is when you get a debate together, we're going to debate together, and we're going to say, is God real? Is God not? You know, the red pill is leading men astray, that kind of stuff. It sounds like on the surface of it, it sounds like there's going to be some sort of like real, a good conversation come out of this. But the problem is we end up talking past each other. And the reason why we do that is because the believers tend to have a different goal than people who are like than empiricists, right? So when I'm having this conversation with somebody, I'm saying, the red pill is not a ideology, it's not a religion, it's not praxeology. It's a praxeology is what it is, yes. And that's the best way I can describe it, right? Because it's based in empiricism. Whereas if you're going to talk to believers and you have empiricists and believers, what happens is the believers tend to want to figure out whether you're a good person or you're a bad person. Yeah. Is it right or is it wrong? It's about best practices.
They call us degenerates.
Right. Exactly. Because you're discussing things that sound like you're endorsing these things, because just because I can discuss the worst atrocities in the world, it doesn't mean I endorse them. It doesn't mean that I'm on board with this. I want to understand how we got to that position
on a certain topic.
And it doesn't have to be atrocities. It could be anything, right? It could just be like especially things that people are really invested in, such as marriage, such as sex, such as having babies, such as solving their reproductive problems, right? So what happens is you have these believers who their goal is to figure out what the best practices are, what should we do, how do we solve the problem, and that's a noble goal, don't get me wrong, and understanding what we ought to do. But the red pill's not about oughts. It's about what is. What is right here in my hands. And I'm reminded of that painting by Leonardo da Vinci where it's like Socrates is pointing to the sky, and it's like I think it's Aristotle like pointing to the ground, right? So it's like what's here and what should we do kind of thing. And that's really when we have this conversation, that's really what we're talking about. And so what happens is the moral absolutists will say, well, those red pill guys are sons of bitches because they believe or they don't believe in marriage, and they don't believe in a nuclear family. They don't open on his end and closed on her end. That's kind of beautiful thing. They think about those. They think about those things, and then they look at that and they go and they say, well, this is not according to my religion. This is not best practices, right? So therefore, you're a sinner and you're going to hell. As opposed to the guy who's on the opposite side, who's on the empirical side, so going, well, they're not really interested in truth. They're not really interested in an objective version of truth. And the problem with that is, without the both of those, we don't have a really kind of functioning society, because you have to know what's true before you can decide what the best practices are from that person.
You have to know the facts. Aaron, you were going to say something about numbers.
It's identical, and hopefully, I don't think we're at each other's throats with tradcons or anything like that, but to kind of show it, we're trying to help them. And it's exactly the same when I talk about worthless degrees and how women major in these horrifically dumb degrees. and
minorities.
But they are, just as Christians hopefully would be wedded to their religion, these women are erroneously, I would argue, wedded to feminism, leftist politics, whatever, you go girlism and stuff like that. It's like, okay, but this empirical action of you majoring in dumb crap will cripple you for the rest of your life. Or we could talk about fat acceptance, the same thing. This is going to hurt you.
You're saying hurt the woman?
It's going to hurt the woman. And what I'm saying is, yeah, like, so
what, not the dumb degrees. The dumb degrees make her feel better. She gets to have. No, the dumb degrees don't hurt at all. Yeah.